make a cord out of yarn using just a paper toilet roll and some paper clips? Let's find out. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Randy and I like arts and crafts. And today we're going to be making an I-cord tool. It's also known as a knitting spool, French knitting, I-cord loom, I-cord spool, or a spool knitter. It has so many names. I'm just going to call it an I-cord tool because what it does, it makes a cord out of yarn. So let me explain why we're going to be making it. I think most of you are like me and you're scrolling through Pinterest or Instagram or TikTok and you see something interesting in the craft area and you're like, I need to do this now. So then you look in your stash and you don't have what you need. And in this case, I need a tool. Here in the Netherlands, it's called punneken. And punneken is something I did when I was like really young. It's like a wooden doll with a hole in the center and some spikes on the top. And I thought it couldn't be that hard to make. So let's try and make one together. So I went around the house and I looked at what I could use to make one. And I had some toilet paper rolls laying around. And I actually had some paper clips as well. So they're quite big. Then I have a pair of pliers, the smaller ones. Some scissors, and I've got two types of tape. One is just painter's tape and the other one is an off brand of tape. So let's start by making the base. So we're going to be cutting these rolls down because they are quite wide and I want something a little bit more this size. And this is just some random tube I had laying around, but I really like the size of this in my hand and we don't want a hole that is quite this big. So I'm going to start by cutting these down the center and I'm going to cut them right where it starts. Just like so. And I'm going to do that for both. You can use just one. I'm taking a little bit wider of painter's tape just to have a little bit more of a sticky surface. So I'm just going to put it on the inside of the tube, sticky side up, and I'm going to just place it on top of my molding tool. I'm just going to roll it like so, taking some more tape and fixing it in place. That's one of the paper toilet rolls. And I'm going to add the second one. Just going to remove this tape. I'm doing this live. I haven't tested it out, so if it's going to work, you're going to be seeing it, and if it doesn't, well then, this video is not going to be going live anytime soon. But let's take another piece to do the same thing. This time, I'm not sticking this in the inside. I'm going to stick it on the outside, so it's going to be up against the end of the first one. Just like so. Then I'm going to roll. It's probably easier to have your tape at the ready. I'm just going to stick that down, like so. I'm going to take it off the mold, take off any excess of the tape. So you want to make sure that the tape on the inside is really stuck down because that's where your yarn is going to go through and you don't want your yarn to be sticking on the inside of the tube. So this is our base done. This is what we're going to be holding in our hands. So the next thing we're going to be doing is making our spikes and we're going to be using these large paper clips. So you're going to be bending them and you're going to be bending not this end, but that one. And I'm just going to place my little pliers on the end like so. And just bending it. And you're going to be ending up with something like this. Don't need it to be too bendy. So I'm going to be doing 4. You can do them with 3 or 5 prongs or spikes. I like to do 4. And now we have to place these onto our base. And for this I'm going to be using the really sticky tape. So I prepped a piece of the tape. I'm just going to start by putting one of these bended paper clips with the bend going to the outside. I'm going to place it on top. I'm going to make sure that these sharp ends are going to go below the edge because otherwise your yarn is going to get stuck on them. I'm going to take my piece of tape and I'm going to start with just placing this and sticking it down. And to make these be even, I'm going to do the first one. Then going to the other side, placing the next one with the bend going to the outside, placing it on top, making sure it's at the opposite side, the first one, sticking it down, Then I'm going to go in between these two, placing the third, making sure it's not too high, sticking it down. So now we have 3, and the last one is going to be on the opposite side of the third one. Should have made my tape a little bit longer. Sticking that down. So now we've got 4, and I'm just going to loop another piece of tape around just to make it really secure. And you're actually done at this point, so you could just use it as is. So this will be absolutely fine to use, but I'm going to make mine a little bit more fancy. And I've got these pieces of foam. It's not that thick. They come with the protection for the glass on the phone. And I save these and I use them for a number of projects. In this case, I'm going to use it to make this a little bit softer to hold. I'm just going to measure it out. It's going to fit just fine. And now I'm just going to wrap it with the tape. And I think I'm going to be using the painter's tape because these off-brand tapes are quite sticky on the sides. And sometimes it gets on your hands while you're using it. So I'm just going to wrap it around with some painter's tape. And I'm just going to wrap it all the way around so we get a nice finish on the outside. I've decided I want to make it a little bit shorter because I don't need all that length. So I'm just going to cut it off. You could do this before you make it. I like to do it at the end. So now it fits nicely in my hand. And well, the only thing we need to do is test it out. I just got some yarn and I'm just going to feed the end from the top to the bottom. Like so. Then I'm going to hold the end and I'm going to start wrapping the yarn around the little spikes. And I'm going to start on the right side, from the inside to the outside, around the little spike, to the inside of the next one, around the outside, to the next one, around the outside, to the last one. It's looking something like this if you would go to the next one, the inside again. But instead of going to the inside, I'm going to go to the outside, still holding the end. Now we've got the first loop on the bottom. The string is going to go on top. That's why you also bend these. That way your top yarn is not going to slip off easily. Then I'm just going to use a crochet hook. I'm going to pull the bottom yarn over the top one, like so. Going to the next one. Again, the bottom over the top, turning, bottom over the top. I'm just going to repeat that around and around. It's going to make some, like, it looks like a spider web. Just make sure you get a little bit of tension on this while you're doing it. So a little thing I like to do is get a couple of these little clamps and put them on the bottom so they weigh it down. And I keep my thumb on the left. I'm right-handed, so it keeps from pulling this loop off of the little spike. And then I keep my yarn on the right. It's easier to use one of those loom pegs, but I don't have one, so I'm just going to use my crochet hook. Almost there. It goes pretty fast actually. It's just I'm having a little bit of hand issues at the moment, but that's also because it's winter time and it's actually quite cold in my little studio space. Like it's, I don't know if you can see it, but it's quite cold in here. So let me just do a couple of rotations till it comes out of the bottom and I'll show you what that looks like. So I've been doing this for about 10 minutes and this is what I ended up with. Because I'm using quite lightweight yarn, it's going to be a little bit more open. I recommend using a little bit of a thicker yarn. But as you can see, this is what the top looks like and this is what's coming out of the bottom. And if you want to see what I'm going to be making with this and why I made the tool, please join me in my next video. But for now, I want to thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye everyone!